Well, welcome to our session. And I asked before what 12-step session or how many people signed up for the 12-step program. It's not an accident that we picked that, because some of us might be drunk with records. Some of us might have too many. Some of us might be obsessed with records. Well, our goal, Donda and myself, decided let's give our 12 steps for how to get through legacy media. But know that as long as you take at least 12 steps and they're not all the same, you'll probably do something really good. The situation that we come across, 90% of the people that we help, either as a service provider or consultant or working inside an organization, don't have an idea of what they have, where they have it, and how to get through it. And so we figured at least 2, 4, 6 of the 12 that we might talk about might be helpful. So take some steps home with you. And wear a Fitbit and you'll know how many you took.
Good morning, everyone.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I was a 16-year practitioner and recently came over to the vendor consulting side of things at IBM. And I'll let you guys read that and you'll get this slide deck. But one thing I really enjoy about this new adventure that I'm on is the fact that I can take my practitioner knowledge and bring that from a consultancy side and really relate to who I'm speaking with, my clients, etc. And I found that it has become very valuable, not only to me because I'm learning from them as well, but also for them because they can relate. Michael?
So I think it was embarrassing enough in the 80s that I started working on records. And recently at the one of our ARMA meetings, I repeated 100 times that I'm trying to break them now. And the idea is to really get a handle on records. And so I've had a career of starting at the technology, scanning, all the way through to regulatory compliance, second requests, electronic discovery, all these complicated words. But at the end of the day, it's about the data we have, it's about the people who are using them, and it's about the process and the technology we apply together. And no matter how many years you do this, it's all about people, process, and technology.
So true. So Michael and I came up with, as you know, the 12 steps, and again, there are thought processes on the steps. Yours could be different, but this is maybe a starting point for you if you haven't started yet. One of the big things that I like to do with my clients and when I worked as a practitioner is understand the landscape, but also understand your landscape of people. So Lynn said this morning something that resonated really well with me is you need to build a team. Well, if you're in records management or privacy or IT, yes, that is your immediate team, but that's not your only team. Building your team is building it within your organization from multiple different groups within your organization to build that camaraderie as well as building that collaboration and find those people in your organization that have the passion that you do. When you find those, and this is in my personal experience, those projects are going to move so much better because you have the passion there with those individuals. So really try and find your stakeholders, the people in the business that are leveraging the information, and bring them with you, bring them along with you, help them along. Try and really build that stakeholder team, and your project sponsor is really important to find someone that is of a high station, if you will, a VP, a senior VP, heck, you're a CEO, and really talk with them. They'll give you the time. You may have to schedule it out a few months, but really find someone in your organization who's as passionate about protecting information, gaining access to information, because it's not only about finding it and accessing it, but really being able to leverage what you have. Michael?
we say get to know your landscape. You have to look at the financial landscape, the physical landscape, the footprint. Where is everybody? The decision-making landscape, the legal landscape, the regulatory landscape. You also need to understand literally what media your data is on. Is it in the cloud? Is it on spinning disks? Is it on backup tapes? Is it data you have access to, or is there software between you and your data? Is it structured and unstructured data? Most organizations will implement an individual solution and find out that they've only tapped 10 to 15% of their data. Someone might implement Office 365 tomorrow, but there's 20 years of archive email they're required to keep, and they've never thought to connect it to Office 365. So part of the game plan is to really understand where all the data is, what closet it's hiding in, what IT room has it and didn't tell anybody, what storage company has it, where is it, do you use chat, are there data repositories on your personal devices, are there legacy systems that you have retired already and you can no longer access?
So a little project management piece for folks. I found this statistic rather scary. So in PMI's 2016 report, there was 122 million for every 1 billion invested was lost because of poor project management and performance. And that's where your team comes in. IBM also did a survey as well and found that sponsors really are your deal breakers. Makers or breakers, really and truly. So find someone that's passionate in your organization that is going to listen to you, but also listen to the other team members that you've brought along with you, and really bridge those gaps and making sure that they're there to push things forward for you.
So the condition of your media, the condition of your data, very interesting story. Client sent us a 9-track tape, I think it was 7 months ago, and it turns out the tape came from NASA, and it had telemetry from a mission many, many years ago. And NASA didn't have the drives to restore the media. And if you've ever seen a magnetic tape, there's a plastic clear film, and then there's your data in that brown stuff. And if your tape is 30 years old, that data falls off like dust when you pick it up. And so one of the things that's important is to have people at the ready, have service organizations, technologists, or professionals in the type of media you have to be able to remediate, preserve, recover, or repair. Because the world doesn't know that you can thermally reactivate a tape, either in a heat or a liquid solution, but you only have about 2 hours to use that tape, and then it won't be good anymore. It's kind of like microwaving food. It's really good if you eat it in the next 5 minutes, but afterwards, not so much. So there's technology to restore and recover data from solid-state devices, from hard drives, from tapes. What organizations need to do is have an engagement with somebody to protect their legacy data so that they don't have to keep the service contracts, the staff, the equipment, everything in place. They simply have to have somebody that knows how to do it available to them. You don't always have to spend $10 million to remediate. You have to have the ability to do it in case there's a legal or regulatory need. Then you have the ability to make that burdensome argument or that reasonably accessible argument. But at the end of the day, check the data you have. Check the systems. Make sure you can access the data. Do sampling projects monthly, quarterly, annually to make sure that all the systems you have that have data are accessible. And then do little pet projects. Do quick wins. Find affordable ways to slowly move towards having all of your media, all your data migrated to current media, accessible, and only keep the data you need, but don't try and do, we have a client with 2.1 million backup tapes. That's not a project that's happening in any given day. But you can take one data center and take those 60,000 tapes or hard drives or wherever your data is stored, and create a remediation plan for that data center, and then go to the next. Those are winnable fights.
So, change management, as we know, is probably one of the bigger hurdles that any company has to move forward. We all have to change to grow. And that communication is really important within your organization. Impacts from your business process through your technology and your risk. Those are all changes that you have to kind of map out, just draw an outline. What does that look like for us as an organization, whether you're big or you're small? Where are those opportunities? And that's what I like to think as change is more of an opportunity than it is a challenge. It still is a little bit of a challenge, but think about the positives in that and really think about your team and how you want to get things communicated out. Compare your alternate options available to access your data. And Michael, I know you're going to talk about this, but there are so many opportunities within your own organization that may be there that you're just not aware of. So that's where tapping into your organization is going to be key. Really learn your entire organization, not just your department, but learn what all the organizations do and what things they have from a technology perspective. If you're a records manager or an IT person or you're someone in privacy, you have a pretty good guess, and you might even have a list of what technology folks are using. And even, especially records managers, at least in my experience, you really do get to know the business because you have to work with all of those organizations to identify the records that they have, how long they have to be retained, and help them through that process. So Michael, if you want to talk a little bit more about the data.
So the data itself is something that we all think about as soon as we hit the pillow at night, right? Not so much. How many people here in this room are at organizations that have legacy media? How many people don't know what that is? Sorry. So one of the fun things to ask is, how duplicative do you think your data is? Do you think your organizations have data that's 90% duplicative? Anybody? 70% duplicative.
Email's a big one.
So if you back up all of your email on Monday, then you back up all of your email on Tuesday, our statistics show that it's 96 to 98% duplicative. And if you do that over 10 years, it doesn't go down that much, because we save in folders all those important emails and even the lunch plans and the advertisement from the sports authority or whatever, or the music advertisements. And so we keep things because they make us feel safe. But at the end of the day, if you have a petabyte of data stored and it's 96% duplicative, the lowest one we've seen is 70%. The lowest level of duplicative data in email, 70%. So, 700 terabytes of data being stored for decades at cost with risk for no reason. And so we at EMAG have learned these languages of deduplication, but we take it off of the e-discovery world of deduplication, because we all think about deduplication as, oh, I've sent that email to 16 people, so let's drop 15 copies, save one, and a pointer to the others. But real deduplication from a business perspective is removing the extra copies of the data that sit throughout the organization and removing the extra copies that sit in the same silo of archiving and backup. So that as you put your tape or your storage device away, you're not saving that extra 96%. If you nip it in the bud, if you find either a partner that can help you deduplicate or implement backup strategies that don't back up the same thing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for decades, then you reduce your footprint by 70 to 96%. That's big, especially when the risk of having attorneys review 4,000 copies of the same silly email over 10 or 20 years, and that's just one email. It's better not to have it. Someone for me?
That was your slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of organizations that try and tackle their information governance, technology, and risk projects on their own. I think the things that every outsourced provider wants you to think about are people, process, and technology. To that end, you have to really look at what the costs are of doing work internally, what the staffing costs are, what the sick day costs related to staffing are, what the mistakes are. If your organization's set up well enough to do it. There's often fiduciary risk. If you're collecting your own evidence in litigation, are you making prejudiced decisions? If you're deciding from a statistical analysis what data to keep and what data to get rid of, is there a third party, internal or external, overseeing what you're doing? And you might be one of the too big to fail banks, and you might have that budget to staff completely and be able to do it perfectly. But even if you are, I always urge to get outside advice, to have somebody come in with a second opinion. It's great to outsource. It's also great to have the capacity internally. And most of the projects that I've seen done truly successfully are done in a partnership where there's an internal team leading a project and an external set of technology and subject matter expert advisors to share with. And then again, look at this room. This is a room full of people who know how to do what we do.
Exactly.
Lean on your industry peers. Outsourcing could be calling an InfoGov friend. So,
you records managers in the room will probably appreciate this, and project managers. Document your business processes and your use cases. That is really important because you can do that without even creating a project. You can get those analogies that the business, the pain points, the opportunities together, and really take those business cases and sell why you want a small pilot, why you want to create this little tiny project. It'll help us. And yes, include your cost savings, but also show in there the business process improvements as well. Evaluate where your data and your processes may intersect and overlap. And something that I've done in a project last year was creating a heat map. And Lynn mentioned this morning, and it really resonated. That's important because that will tell you where to start. Those quick wins, as Michael said earlier. Identify the levels of risk from records management and privacy and legal, your size and your risk. A lot of those can be heat mapped, and you may need someone to help you do that, but you may not. You may be able to really equate that yourselves, but work with your teams to help build that for yourself, and be agile. I can't stress that enough. Don't silo yourselves into one project methodology. Really broaden and mix some of the methodologies too, because sometimes little pieces and parts will help you move things forward. Start with a small pilot. I can't encourage that enough. A lot of folks want to do something really big because we see the forest through the trees and the big savings and the big opportunities, but sometimes you just don't get there as fast as you want. So if you start incrementally, that's going to help sell what you've done from a small pilot, moving up into a medium and a large group and a large implementation.
So we're all having the same issues, and we're all struggling with the same things, and together, one at a time, we knock them down and we move forward. So we're going to give you just a snippet to remember. Start early, ask lots of questions, start small, test data sets, and prove the process before rolling it out to a larger scale across an organization. Engage your industry peers, engage outside technology experts, inside technology experts, get subject matter expertise, professional, internal or external, and confirm the methodology. Don't reinvent the wheel, because it's been done by others, and don't be scared to start.
Yeah, check with your peers, check with the vendors out on the floor. There's a lot of opportunities out there to just tap into their knowledge. The people in this room, you all have obviously a commonality. You were interested in the topic. Hopefully we did a little bit of justice for you, some take-homes, takeaways, but really talk with each other, see where your pain points are, and see if someone else in the room has afforded this type of small pilot maybe in their organization, and see what they've done, and maybe they can give you some pointers. So thank you all for joining and listening in, and I hope it was a good session for you.